It's time for another mock draft Monday. And Caleb Williams is not the first overall pick. It is Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. We're going to get into Yahoo Sports' latest mock draft coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. I got to kick this introduction over to my guy, my partner in crime, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. On the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to get this podcast started by saying, man, shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. And you know how this thing goes, man. Hit the like button. Go ahead and comment after each segment, man. Talk to us because we like to talk back. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for the best NFL draft content there is out there. DP, it is Mock Draft Monday, man. So you know what we do. We take this thing segment by segment. We have 3 wide receivers in the top 5 that we're going to talk about. The next segment, we have Penix Jr. and Bo Nix, right? Better than McCarthy, better than J.J. McCarthy. We have to get into this conversation. And then Chiefs reach for a wide receiver. Is this the worst version of the Kansas City Chiefs we're going to see? And they're going to be much better offensively next year? We will talk about it. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. At number 1, it is not Caleb Williams. As I said in the opening, guys, it is Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Chicago Bears, wide receiver out of Ohio State. At pick 2, Caleb Williams, quarterback at USC, goes back home to D.C. to those Washington Commanders. At pick 3, the New England Patriots select quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. At pick 4, the Arizona Cardinals select Malik Nabers, wide receiver out of LSU. At pick 5, the Los Angeles Chargers select Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. At pick 6, the New York Giants select Jaden Daniels, QB out of LSU. At pick 7, the Tennessee Titans select Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. At pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons select Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick 9, the Chicago Bears select Jerzon Newton, interior defensive lineman from Illinois. And at pick 10, the New York Jets select offensive tackle Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Keith, I got to start where I began in the opening, right? We have multiple, 3 receivers in the top 5. And it starts right at the top with Marvin Harrison Jr. coming off the board. Instead of Chicago Bears, saying, hey, we don't want a quarterback. We're going to stick with Justin Fields. Instead of trading out of this pick, they go Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State at number 1. Keith, I'm going to get into that pick in a second and how I feel about it. Then you got Malik Nabers at 4, which I think we talked about during Prospect Spotlight this past Friday, where we discussed, hey, team fits for Malik Nabers. And we said the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, that offense and that pairing of his skill set with Kyler Murray's skill set is such a great fit. And then we have Rome Odunze, who I called kind of a juiced up version of Keenan Allen, that can absolutely play on the outside all game or slide into the slot, going to the Chargers. Keith, at number 1, I don't like it.
Yeah, and
trade out of this pick if you're going to do it, but I do not like standing pat and taking a wide receiver if you're going to pass up on a quarterback. I'm not about to let anybody benefit you're not getting Caleb Williams unless you're trading with me. You know what I mean? If I don't want him, you're going to have to make a trade. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and it's that simple. And this is the thing, right? That you know that somebody wants him, right? So the Washington Commanders want him. Obviously, they picked him at number 2, right? So even and this is the negotiating part of the NFL draft, right? So you come in there and you say, hey, Washington, y'all want to move up to pick 1? We want 2 first-round picks, we want 2 second-round picks, and we want a player, right? And they say, nah, we're not doing it. Then you say, okay. Then you come back, right? And you say, okay, we want 1 first-round pick, right? And even if they say no to that, right? You say, you know what? Just, we'll swap first-round picks and then give us 2 seconds next year or a second and a third next year. Yeah, get something like that, right? And in that way, you get something out of the deal, but just giving up Caleb Williams, which is a commodity, for nothing at all makes absolutely no sense. And then this is the other side of this, DP. At pick 3, right? Who went at pick 3? Was that
that was Drake May.
That was Drake May, right? You call the New England Patriots, hey, do y'all want control of this entire situation, right? And you can have Caleb Williams or Drake May, and you have a new look offense altogether, and you ask them, do they want to move up to pick 3? And then what you do is, after you call the Patriots, you call the Commanders back, right? And you say, hey, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm about to tell you. The New England Patriots are about to do this. So that right at the top, DP, it threw me for a loop. Not the pairing, because I've made the pairing, but when I did my mock draft, I had them trade down. So and actually execute a trade and not just take Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's not about Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's about capitalizing on the draft capital you can get. DP, the other pick that threw me for a loop, can you scroll down? I think it was pick 8, 9, or 10? One of those.
Probably
I think it was pick 8.
Pick 8? It was 8? Okay.
Yeah, Terrion Arnold
too.
Yeah. Terrion Arnold, man, going to the Atlanta Falcons at pick 8. I thought that was extremely high. Like, and when I have my big board and my, drop my top 50, top 100 rankings, right? I don't know if I would have a cornerback that's a top 20 player, right? Like, just to be honest, man, because all of these guys, don't get me wrong, they're all talented, DP. But we'll talk about this, right? Because we'll compare this draft class, like, certain players to other players in other draft classes, and we'll have that conversation. But this draft class at the cornerback position, I don't think it matches up to, the Christian Gonzalez, the Derek Stingley's, right? And not that these guys don't have the upside, but we talk about drafting, right? Sometimes you're drafting and you want to know exactly what you're getting. And with Terrion Arnold, extremely talented player, and I like him a lot. But we know that there's some highs and lows surrounding him in his game.
No, 100%. I think, this was a pick that caught my eye as well. I was like, man, a corner coming off the board in the top 10. I feel like it is rich. And, we both love Terrion Arnold and think that he has a really strong ceiling, high ceiling. I think, shout out to my boy Ben Fennell. I think he tweeted out some comps, and his comp for Terrion, I think it was Jair Alexander. And I'm like, if you get that, then yes, 100% a top 8 pick is worth it, right? But we don't know what he will become.
Yeah, and Jair was different. Jair was different coming out of college, and I think the part that people are like, they're matching him up from an athletic perspective. Yes, he's explosive, everything else, but the technique, consistency, right? That's something that has to be developed. Just like, I forgot what prospect we were talking about, and having a good coach for him to develop him. I think it's the same exact thing for Terrion Arnold. You got to have a good cornerback coach that's going to develop him, so that way you get the more consistent elite level play.
No, 100%. And like I said, for me at pick 9, man, this right here, I don't, I know that, they drafted Gervon last year and Zach Pickens, got Montez Sweat. I personally, and I love Jerzon, but I would have liked to see Latu or Jared Verse, like that edge presence. You know what I mean? Because like I look at it from this aspect, like, man, I truly believe you could get another impact interior defensive lineman in rounds 2 and 3, right? You know what I mean? Where you're talking about Aruk Ororo, you Tyler Davis, all these. This is a good interior defensive line group, and where I can get a high caliber edge rusher in the Jared Verse, a Dallas Turner if you wanted, a Leatu Latu, like whatever. Like, I just feel like this was a little bit rich or just the team fit I don't like as much. I guess I could say that. I don't like the team fit as much, but Keith, 10 at number 10. You got Joe Alt right there. Why not protect Justin Fields even more? Now you got Darnell Wright and Joe Alt, and you can say, listen, we gave you 2 good tackles back to back. Literally, I think ninth pick or whatever, back to back drafts. Like, I just don't see why you pass on Alt, especially if he's available to take Newton Jerzon, especially because that left tackle spot to me is still a weakness on this offensive line.
Yeah, I agree 100% with DP. Let's keep going, man. Listen, quarterbacks. I have a feeling that they are about to steal the show in this next segment, man. We have picks 11 through 20, coming up next. And will we see a Michael Penix Jr. appearance? Will we see a J.J. McCarthy appearance? Will we see a Bo Nix appearance? We're about to get into all that and more coming up in the next segment.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. New customers get $150 in bonus bets back with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Guys, you can bet on all your favorite NBA players: LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or your favorite teams, the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, so forth and so on. And you can bet on them with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more, guys. I'm telling you, so much more. So all you need to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. With the 11th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. At pick 12, the Denver Broncos select Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders select Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. At pick 14, the New Orleans Saints select offensive tackle Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. At pick 15, the Indianapolis Colts select Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. At pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks select Leatu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. They have USC. It almost threw me off. UCLA. At pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Jarrett Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. At pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals select Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams select Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. And at pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Keith. All right. I told you this mock has some stuff in it. And
has some stuff is a light way to put this phrase, DP. I don't even want to start it. Can we start at 11?
It's a family show, so I had to say this had some stuff.
Can we start at 11 and then go to
11?
12?
Okay,
I want to go to 12 too, but I want to start at 11. It's okay. Listen, I talked about Terrion Arnold at pick 8, right? And we talked about my rankings, and I may not have a cornerback far as one in the top 20. So DP, listen, we had one at 8. I'm definitely not going 2 in the top 11. And I just that is crazy. And I always say this about the Minnesota Vikings, DP. The Minnesota Vikings, it appears that they're always drafting corners and they always need corners, DP. Like that's just the Minnesota Vikings overall. So I'm not a fan of this one too. I think that's too high for Cooper DeJean, and we know that he's a prospect that there's variance as far as how people feel about him. Some people feel like, hey, he's a second-round pick, cover 3 guy. Some people feel like he's a top 10 pick because of athleticism and everything else. I just think that's too high. Now, I'll go ahead and transition. Pick 12, DP. Denver Broncos with your guy, Bo Nix. We'll talk about it.
But it's pick 12 and 13 for me because – now, don't get me wrong. I do think that Bo Nix would fit Sean Payton's offense, right? But again, I think I keep coming back to the fact that I got questions about this man's processing and what he does after the first read.
So, and that's why I don't know that he'll fit Sean Payton's offense. Like that's my question mark about this, because what Sean Payton did to Russell Wilson, right, is tell him that, hey, I like things exactly my way, and it's my way or the highway. Bo Nix isn't necessarily a your way type of guy, right? Like that's not what he's always going to do. Some of the improvising, and he's, like you said, first read, but getting second, third, fourth reads and working through the exact possession of the offense. We haven't necessarily seen that yet either from Bo Nix. So that's the part that makes me a little worried, is that Sean Payton likes high-level processors, right? That's going to follow his instructions, and we just don't know if that's from Bo Nix yet.
And for me, like, you know, and the thing is, like, the second topic was Bo Nix and Penix greater than J.J. McCarthy. They are over. J.J. McCarthy has not been selected inside the top 20 of this mock. And so you're telling me Bo Nix, who has people question the processing of J.J. McCarthy. Well, J.J. McCarthy is a 2-year starter, and he didn't even start the full season in 2022. Remember that? I don't think Cade McNamara, it was like a QB battle for like the first couple games, and then he took over the reins and led them to the playoffs, right? But Bo Nix has started for 5 years, and we got this question. Like, that's where I consistently come back to, like, man, that's just rough. And then the Raiders, right? Like, to me, the Raiders taking Penix Jr., I like Penix. I like him a lot. I mean, of course, you got to get the medicals back on his knees, on the ACLs and stuff. But for me, it's like, man, the struggles against pressure, the struggles when moved off the spot, the struggles throwing on the run, those are legitimate concerns with his game. And I don't know if the ceiling for Penix warrants pick 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is why I want to get into some team discussions, right? Because I just did the radio show with our boy Quentin, you know, from Locked On Raiders, but you know, also he does the ESPN Raiders show, and he was asking me about quarterbacks, and so I started to think about the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And they gave Antonio Pierce the head coaching job, DP, but you almost have the feeling that this is still a test run for Antonio Pierce, right? Because they didn't just come right out and announce that, hey, you're the head coach of this team and we want you, and here's a 5-year, 7-year deal, right? Like, it wasn't that type of declaration. So what my question is with them drafting a quarterback, period, and not going the veteran route, is that will they be in win now mode, right? And then will Antonio Pierce have the time to see it through with a young guy or with a young quarterback, especially like Michael Penix, right? Because you're still trying to put pieces to the offensive line and everything else. I'm with you. Like, I like Michael Penix Jr. And I think that if you're talking about a team that's somewhat run heavy, that's going to play tough, that's going to play rugged, that's going to take the ball out of his hands sometimes, I like the situation. It's just from the draft perspective, I wonder if this is going to be a situation, DP, where the general manager and the head coach are not on the same page because they're not on the same timeline, right? And that's the part that I have. But we want to keep going through the picks. I just want to quickly, and you could take the rest of it. Pick 18, Brock Bowers to the Cincinnati Bengals. Good luck if this happens. I talked about no cornerbacks ranked in the top 20. DP, listen, I watched Brock Bowers over the weekend, and he easily might finish as a top 5 overall guy for me. And I just watched him, and I'm like, listen, this guy may be the short thing, how Marvin Harrison Jr. is the short thing at wide receiver, just because of some of the things that he does with the football. And the biggest thing is when you're an OC, and this is, we'll get into these conversations too. You know, like I said, when we compare the draft prospects of the years past and stuff, it's easy to get him the football because you can hand the football off to him at running back. You can give it to him on jet sweeps, right? He can work the short to intermediate parts. He can work the deep parts. And he's just an easy guy to game plan for if you're an OC. And that's the part that I like a lot about Brock Bowers as a football player.
No, 100%, Keith.
You put Joe Burrow with this, and it's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's insane, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially if they were to move T. Higgins with a franchise tag and trade situation, you throw him in there with Jamar Chase, you know, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, you know, Chase Brown. Like, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's just really unfair. I think that, and the thing with Brock, man, Brock, and I think we remember we kept comping him to George Kittle. I'm gonna take that away from him. He's I don't think he's ever going to be the blocker that Kittle is, right? Like, because he's undersized. He's like 6'4", 230. He struggles against defensive ends, but like his receiving ability, like the yards after catch, the explosiveness, the ball skills, man, like Yeah, you put Joe Burrow, you put him in this offense with Joe Burrow, and it's just like, you know what I mean? if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at Eric DeCosta, like, you better figure something out. Like, you know what I mean? I want Keon Coleman. I need something. Like, when we get out of this draft, like, we go out of the first round, I need a stud. Because there's no way in the world Joe Burrow goes from T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to potentially Jamar Chase and Brock Bowers. Like, I can't have that if I'm Lamar Jackson. You know, Pittsburgh, you got a quarterback situation you got to figure out. And same thing for Cleveland, right? So this would be a nightmare for the AFC North teams. And then, I mean, you think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're looking at this like, okay, we're going to see Joe Cool Burrow again. We're going to see him in the AFC Championship game again. All right, you know what I mean? You just kind of get ready for it. But I think out of all these picks, Keith, I think that, you know, the quarterbacks were a big one. And I think pick 20, J.C. Latham going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like this pick. I think, you know, simple, whether it's Fuaga, J.C. Latham, like Dan Moore, I saw a tweet that said that he gave up 55 pressures at left tackle in 2023. What are we doing? Get this man out of the tackle spot, flip Broderick Jones, now throw J.C. Latham or Fuaga, whichever one of these right tackles are there, and whoever's at quarterback feels so much more comfortable knowing that I got two young bookend, physically imposing tackles that's going to keep me upright. 55 pressures from one man is a crazy stat, Keith.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it's definitely interesting, right? And I think that rivals the 49ers right tackle, right, who had some crazy, comes sacks. I can't even remember what the number was just through the playoffs. And I was like, you know, that's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing. That is a feat to accomplish. And I was impressed by it. And obviously it wasn't a good thing, but it was still impressive that you was able to do that. But DP, man, let's keep this stay going, man. We have picks 21 through 32, and we know what in the back end of the draft, right? That's the playoff teams, DP. And who do we have? The Super Bowl champs taking a wide receiver. So we're going to talk about what are these playoff teams doing to get better and to try to unseed the Super Bowl champs to stop them from three-peating. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Are you tired of stressing when it's time to buy tickets to your next big event? Well, let me introduce you to Game Time, because they are the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. What other benefits do they offer, DP? Tell us. Well, let me tell you then, family. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Their tickets are easy to find and buy. And this is my favorite part. They show the views from all the seats in the venue. So before you purchase that ticket, you know what vantage point you will have. All right? Guys, fellas, listen to me. Your significant other, if they love Usher the way my wife does, October 22nd, 8 p.m. at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, Usher will be performing while on tour, and you can get tickets from the Game Time app for as cheap as $145. Guys, they're going fast, and the prices are going up, so you want to go ahead and tap in now. So what you need to do to get that, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Let's close this thing out, guys. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, man. But at pick 21, the Miami Dolphins select Jackson Powers Johnson, center from Oregon. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles select Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. At pick 23, the Houston Texans select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from LSU. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys get Byron Murphy II, defensive lineman out of Texas. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers select Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. At pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals select Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. At pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select the speedster out of Oregon, wide receiver Troy Franklin. At pick 29, the Detroit Lions select a new name in the first round, Chris Jenkins, defensive lineman out of Michigan. At pick 30, The Baltimore Ravens select Kamari Lasser, the cornerback out of Oregon. And pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers select Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle, offensive lineman from Washington. And then at pick 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. To me, Keith, let's start here. You know who I didn't see? I didn't see Xavier Legette. I didn't see Xavier Worthy.
Keon Coleman.
But Jalen Polk made the first round. This is, and I like Jalen Polk. His scouting report will be up later on this week. This is a reach to me. With the guys that I just talked about being available, right? This is a reach to me. I fit second round, cool. Back into the first with Keon Coleman available. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people that say, well, isn't Keon Coleman and Rashee Rice a little redundant? Maybe. But at the same time, who's the better player? The better player is Keon Coleman. Xavier Legette. From South Carolina, right? Expected to hit 4 threes at 6'1", 225. Can probably jump 38 to 40 inches. What are we doing here? Xavier Worthy probably might run one of the fastest 40s out of all the receivers. Route running, all of that separation. He's got to fix some drops. He's got some drops on tape. But again, all three of these guys, I would say, are better players right now than Jalen Polk. So for me, when I saw this name, it flabbergasted me, Keith, because I was just like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a reach. And I don't even it's not about Jalen Polk. It's who else was available that you let slip out of the first round that you could have taken at 32.
Yeah, and I think that's the theme with this draft is that the back end of this draft, you see some highly talented players like your Marius Mims, and a couple other guys, towards the last 8 picks. And that's because when people, and I guess it's kind of realistic, right, is that when people mess up in the draft, good players fall, right? And they fall right to your lap. And then now those playoff teams, and it creates the situation of the rich gets richer. The San Francisco pick, Troy Fautanu, we just talked about this, right? As far as with the 49ers, I like this selection, right? That's an easy pick. I think that's a layup. You run the card up, but you keep going up real quick. There was a lot of talking points.
This one here, Keith. No.
That was a little rich also, right? Kamari Lasser to the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know about that, right? And you're talking about a top 30 pick. And we get it. And I wonder if the thought process was to address positional needs, but this is what I always say. And this is not something the Baltimore Ravens do. Because remember Kyle Hamilton, they kind of
Linderbaum.
Yeah, and that was 2 positions that wasn't quote unquote premium positions, right? And it wasn't necessarily positions of need, but they draft best player available. I expect them to do the same exact thing. And then you know that at some point, right, somebody's contract is going to be up or somebody's going to get injured. And this highly talented player that fell to you, he's going to play really good football for you. And that's what the Baltimore Ravens do. So that one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The Detroit Lions getting Chris Jenkins, DP, I thought that was solid, right? I would have liked another edge pressure, but we know that they just got to get better defensively, period. And then adding another Michigan man with Aiden Hutchinson, a Michigan man in Detroit, Michigan. I'm like, you know what? Cool, right? If you struck gold once, see if you could strike gold twice.
No, 100%, Keith. I think it was a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot. I love the Dallas pick, getting Byron Murphy the second. Absolutely love that. This one here caught my eye, and I like this. I like this pick, Keith, of Brian Thomas Jr. to Houston. You have Nico Collins. You got Tank Dell. John Mechie is the kind of the enigma, the X factor in the situation. Is like, are we going to be able to get him back to the production level, get him back to Alabama, the Kung Fu celebration? Can we get that John Mechie back? Because if you get that John Mechie back, you don't have to get another receiver. You can go tight end like a Jatavian Sanders in the first round, and then we cooking with some gas right there. But I think if you're concerned about Mechie, and everything like that going, long term, can we get him back to playing at that high level? And you say, you know what, let's go ahead and just continue to get better with the receiver group, right? And at least you can go 4 wide receivers and Mechie still be a part of it. Brian Thomas Jr. with Nico and Tank Dell, you talk about guys that can, like, Nico can go into the slot. Tank Dell can play a slot. He plays outside. I think Brian Thomas Jr. right now, to me, he might be more of a outside guy. You know what I mean? The route running and everything is still a big concern with him. Everybody says he's big, fluid, and okay.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a huge concern, and I'm getting closer and closer to people going to have to explain to me the Brian Thomas Jr. this high situation, right? Besides the straight line, catch a deep ball thing, because you know in offense you're going to be required. Now, do I think Houston is a good spot? Yes. Do I think that this is a good spot for Houston to take him? No. That's you know that would be my thing, because I think Houston has versatile wide receivers, so they can allow him just to do his two things really well. But I think this is kind of high to draft a wide receiver that has shown you that I can do two things really well, right? And and that would be my question. Then DP with the Dallas Cowboys, man, this is kind of on the lighter side. Micah Parsons came out what he would do, you know, to improve the team. I think he said he told, you know, upper management. So what that means, Jerry Jones and Steven Jones, right? Yeah. He said that he wanted a big defensive tackle, DP. And I don't know if Byron Murphy fits that, right? So
he plays like it, but he's not the biggest of defensive tackles.
So, yeah, Michael Parsons said he needs a big defensive tackle and a thumping linebacker. So that I don't know if this fits the Michael Parsons draft.
No. If anything, what you do is you draft Byron Murphy, you go back and apologize to Mazi Smith and say, we apologize for telling you to drop 30 pounds. Get those 30 pounds back, big fella, and now we can get back to being physical on the front, on the defensive front, because Mazi Smith at his normal college playing weight at 320, 330, you know what I'm saying, being that big physical point setter with Byron Murphy playing that kind of 2-eye, 3-tech. Yeah, like that way, and then you go and get you some linebackers, then you feel really good about this defensive line on the interior. But if Mozzie's going to play at 295 and then you draft Byron Murphy, I don't really know how this helps one another. You need to get you need to beef up the interior offensive line and not tell guys to drop weight when it clearly was not smart to do.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing, DP, because the one reason I liked the Mazi Smith pick, because I kept saying for the past 5 years the Cowboys need a big defensive tackle, just to find out that they drafted him and then made him lose a bunch of weight. So I thought that was amazing. But DP, man, listen, man, that wraps up another show of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. We told you, man, hit that like button. If you haven't hit the like button, hit it now. And if you haven't commented, make sure you comment and let us know what you think about your team picks right from this mock draft. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to come check out the hottest and the best NFL draft content that they have out there. Listen, man, my name is Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there, that is my co-host Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. It's time for being our everydayers. We got Dame's Dudes tomorrow. We got some more stuff coming up. We're getting ready for Combine. That is literally next week. So we're going to start previewing the Combine, maybe setting some bets that one of us have to pay out while we're in Indianapolis, or some of these 40 times, stuff like that. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.